Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are going to have a great show ahead of us. Michael McAdams is going to be here. He's an author. He's an experiencer. We're going to get into contacting the spiritual realm. We're going to have a fun time with him tonight. And in hour number 3, the wizard will be here for the UFO report. Why? Well, it's an important day in ufology. It is. It's the anniversary of the Tic Tac New York Times story. We're going to get into that and a little bit more coming at you tonight. But before we do that, let's say hello to each and every one of you on our YouTube side right now. Kitty Cattywhack in the gold medal position, Race Fan with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing the bronze medal tonight. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show, because when you go into a show about spirituality, you want to be nice and smooth. So thank you, Mel, for the lube. We greatly appreciate it. On my face here. Why is that all dark? Well, that's weird. Never noticed that before. All right, moving on here. Let us say hello to Skip to Malou. Good morning to you in Denmark. And Race Fan, how you doing, buddy? And let's see here. Go there. And Little Cam kicking off the super chat tonight. Thank you, Little Cam. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you, Little Cam, who literally re-upped his membership as well. Thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate you. And, of course, moving on down is Little Cam getting ready to do a bench press set of 5 at 800 pounds. 5 sets, 800 pounds. That's right. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, how are you tonight? T-Bone, my man, what's going on? I hope you're having a great night as well. Operation Shutdown, good to see you. Thomas Rock and Kurt W75 is here. Kurt will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. Thank you for the morning message. Made me start my day just perfectly. Hope you're having a wonderful night as well. I know you're going to enjoy tonight's show. Scrolling on down, up next, we say hello to I'm Hardcore over on X. Integrationing, how are you? MJ, thanks for coming on in. And number 39 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. He's got a 2.48 goals against average so far this year. Algorate on Twitch, 7,000 sit-ups in under 4 minutes. This one I'm having a tough time believing. 7,004. I think he's exaggerating on this one. Now, if he had said 40 minutes, I'd probably believe him, because that's the way he works. But in 4 minutes, I don't know if I'm taking that one very well. Kurt M., how are you? Kurt M. will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Both Kurts signing autographs tonight. It's a first for this show. Make sure you get them while you can. All right, moving on down. We say hello next to Nate Rudd. There he is, the Hallmark Kid himself, right there. Merry Christmas, Nate. I love you, buddy. Hope you're having a good night. Who's this? D. Henderson. Welcome to SOR Chat. And East Coast Turnaround. How are you? Mac Geek. Hey, you returned. John Lamb. Nice to see you. Hold on. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to try and figure out how we can communicate with the spiritual world. Author, researcher, experiencer Michael McAdams is here from his beautiful home in Ohio tonight. We are in roll call on our YouTube side as we say hello to Jay Truthseeker. We say hello next to Luscious Jules and Undead Jed. Carol Amario, how are you? Mike Arrington, nice to see you. Millennium, my man, thanks for coming on in. As we scroll on down next, we say hello to Dragonfly. How you doing, my friend? And who's next? I don't know. Jessica Davenport, Lucky Gypsy. Nice to have you both here. And it is that time of the night where we tell you the super chat is open. Shop at our store. There's nothing ugly there. And throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears to what's that we can have in the news. We're together, my friends. Oh. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight, we're going into the spiritual realm. How can we communicate with those on the other side? Author, researcher, experiencer Michael McAdams is going to be with us momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. We're going to follow that up with the wizard, Josh Rutledge, coming on in for the UFO report. Michael McAdams is a lifelong seeker of truth who has felt a strong sense of destiny and purpose from an early age. Raised in a Pentecostal church and influenced by his uncle, fiery preacher John W. Sullivan, Michael's journey has always been guided by a deep desire for spiritual understanding rather than religious dogma. With an open mind and receptive mind, he has decided his life to, dedicated his life to receiving high guidance and translating those insights into wisdom meant to help and uplift others. Guided by the belief that when the student is ready, a teacher will appear, Michael's path has consistently aligned himself with influential teachers, books, and transformative experiences. That has shaped his ongoing spiritual growth right through life. Alongside the Bible, the Urantia book has played a significant role in his personal studies. Michael is also the author of Spiritual Parchment Prints, a collection of inspired writings available through his website, spiritspeaks.com. So let's go check him out now. Michael McAdams, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time, my friend. How are you?
Hello, Dave. Thank you for having me. I am fine, and I am amazed at your chat room. You have people from all over the world.
Literally all over the world. That's why we tell everybody in our radio land and our social media land, just come hang out. It's a lot of fun. You never know where you're going to get. I actually have a pin board of a map of the world of where we have listeners that have come into our chat room. And I think we're at like 25 countries or something like that.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. Well, thank you for coming on in, and we appreciate you joining us to talk about what it's like to contact the spiritual realm. Let's go back in time a little bit here, Michael, and how did this all begin for you?
Well, I was, like you had said, brought up with the foundation of faith, church-based, Bible-based. My mother was extremely religious, daily reader of her Bible. Her mother pastored a small Pentecostal church just north of Cincinnati in Ohio. And my uncle, John W. Sullivan, fiery Pentecostal preacher, and he founded churches in Florida, Kentucky, and Ohio. And so that was my upbringing. But even when I was young, I had questions. I would sit in church, in the pew 2 or 3 rows back and listen to descriptions of heaven and hell. And I'm 10, 11 years old, and it just didn't seem to sit right. It just didn't feel right that we would go to heaven for all eternity or go to the bad place for ever and ever with no chance for reprieve, for a do-over. And a lot of us, as we get older, we become more spiritual than religious. And as a seeker will attract to you a book, a movie, an event, and that will carry you, assign you, allow you to find whatever it is that you're supposed to find to carry you on the next step on your path. And that is my journey. That's what I have done for most all of my life now.
As you grew up, when did you figure out what your turning point was where you said, you know what, this isn't for me, I need to go on my own journey? What was that turning point?
It was probably early 20s. I spent 2 years in Germany in the Army and had gotten out of the Army, but I was always interested in spiritual information, psychics, that sort of thing. And there were a number of psychic fairs and events that I would go to. Eventually, I joined a group in Cincinnati called Psychic World. And I had a table there and I did psychic readings. And I was able to do what they call psychometry, hold rings, watches, keys, anything that carries a person's vibration. And I had a legal tablet. And they would, individuals would sit down at my table. I wouldn't pump them for information, engage them in conversation, just ask their first name. They would give me something to hold. And I would just relax my mind and I would start to get a message for them. Sometimes full page, page and a half. When it got to the end, it would stop. I would read it to them. Sometimes they would cry. And it was more confirmation as to what they were going through rather than actual prophecy. And I believe that we're all given this innate ability to receive. And that information that I was being given was not coming from me. It was coming from their spirit guides, their spirit teachers. And we're all capable of receiving in that same manner.
The messages that you were looking for, they weren't in scripture, they weren't in any type of biblical teaching. How did you find your path to not only, your own spiritual world, but to learn that you had intuitive abilities as well?
Well, again, I believe that we're all born with this innate ability to receive. And the spiritual realm, these spirit guides, spirit teachers, which are the same thing as angels, just viewed from a different perspective, they exist in a spiritual realm that is adjacent to this physical plane. Those with the foundation of faith would consider the spiritual realm to be heaven. But I believe the spiritual realm is much more than just a place called heaven. And it's just as incomprehensibly vast as this physical plane that we're on, this physical universe. 7,000 light years away, the James Webb telescope is photographing galaxies. And here we are out on the outer edge of the Milky Way galaxy, third rock from the sun. I always liked that TV show. And we are capable of receiving from the spiritual realm the teachers, the spirit guides, ascendant masters that are available to us. All we need to do is recognize their existence.
How did you find your spirit guides?
again, I was, because of my foundation of faith, I was continually taught about angels. And the book, An Angel Told Me So, this collection of messages and teachings dictated directly from spirit teachers from the other side, were dictated through my mother, Wilma Jean Jones, over a period of 22 years. There's going to be 3 volumes in the series. Now, many of these messages and teachings are signed with the name of the spirit teacher that presented the message. And these spirit teachers repeatedly refer to themselves in these messages in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise. Our view encompasses more than your view is permitted. One line in a message said, "We hear the spirit cries above the words you speak." Who talks like that? I don't talk like that. So I'm really just the messenger as far as these messages and teachings go, but I also have received messages, teachings, writings myself. But the messages and teachings that my mother received over this 22-year period is an amazing body of material.
Out of the messages you received early on, what stuck with you and became a life mantra?
Well, the messages themselves are just so extremely personal. And these spirit teachers, again, repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. But volume 1 was pretty much all personal messages to my mother and to me. She would be led to sit down and receive a message from her spirit teachers addressed to her. Then she would receive a message addressed to me from my spirit teachers. But it's like these messages and teachings are woven with a universal thread. And everyone who has read these messages have said, well, this sounds like what I'm dealing with. This sounds like they're talking to me. And I tell people, I say, when you get the book, read each message once as it was given for my mother and given for me. Then read that same message again as if it's being presented for you and see what hits. It's amazing what hits.
So the first time you tried it, what hit?
Well, it's not a question of really trying. And a lot of people, they are not really, people with a foundation of faith, they're fearful. They say, well, I want to receive, but I want to make sure that no negativity or anything comes in. And an incoming thought, anything that comes in from your spirit guides or spirit teachers, it sounds like a thought in your own mind, but it has a different feel. It's a subtle difference. But once you can recognize it, it really is amazing the information that's being shared. You're driving down the road and a thought comes into your mind and it says, I'd slow down up ahead if I were you. Where does that come from? That's happened to me. And you lift off the gas, you slow down a bit, top a little rise, there sits a state highway patrol. Or you're approaching an intersection and you slow down and you didn't get hit by that dump truck that ran the red light. Our spirit teachers are looking out for us. Their joy is in our recognition of their existence. And we each have our own spirit guides, spirit teachers, guardian angels, if that's your perspective. And they are real. They really exist in the spiritual realm.
Are you one to have the ability to talk to your spirit guides at any time and have open communication?
It's not so much a conversation as just being available to whatever they want to share. And depending on what we're dealing with, information, our car problems, family issues, that sort of thing, the spirit teachers are there to guide us and help us along our way. Now we have that pesky little gift called free will, and we can accept or reject any advice, guidance, direction, or support that we're given. So when you're communicating with your spirit guides or spirit teachers, unless you have a particular request, and then you just need to wait and see how it turns out. You may not get an answer right then and there, but it's not so much a conversation as a continual presence, knowing that whatever needs that you have will be, the advice will be given and your direction will be guided. And then as you accept that advice, you gain confidence in the information that's being shared.
So many people have troubles opening up to their own spirit guides and their own spiritual realm. How do you adjust your conversation to make it more acceptable and understanding for people who may not be in belief that they have this ability?
Well, if you read these messages and teachings and you hear how these spirit teachers speak, that gives you the confidence to recognize your own spirit teachers. But one of the things that I believe alleviates the fear that people have about receiving or opening their mind is I tell people that the best thing that you can do is establish a filter, an aura of protection around your thought system. We each have our own personal thought system, like a little mini solar system swirling around in our minds. And we can accept or reject any advice, guidance, direction that we're given. And one of the best ways to protect your mind and only allow positive information to flow into it from our spirit teachers is with an affirmation. And a number of people may have their own affirmations. One that I was given years ago, so long ago, I don't remember when I didn't have it. And it said, "Let no thoughts, ideas, or information be made known to my mind that does not come from God or his direct representatives." And let that affirmation protect you from anything negative that would flow into your mind. And if anything negative does slip through, you can simply discard it out into the farthest reaches of the universe because it has no effect on your thought system.
Tapping into one's spirituality and consciousness can be a life-altering decision. When you went full in trying to make yourself more spiritually sound, how long has the journey gone, or is it a continually ever evolving process?
It is continual. It is a continuing process. But once you allow yourself to recognize that information is available, I mean, we still have choices and decisions that we make on a daily basis. And being connected with your spirit teachers, spirit guides, doesn't mean you're not going to have car trouble or issues with your family. We still have, a living to make and a life to lead. And we don't really know why we've been assigned to this particular journey. And I believe that we are assigned to a certain set of parents in a certain social station for whatever it is that we're supposed to learn in this lifetime.
What have you learned?
Patience. That just came into my mind. One of the things I believe, and I used to be when I was younger, I was extremely impatient. There was someone one time said, I want enlightenment. I want it right now. And you just can't be that. You can't have that mindset. So you need to be patient. And on my website, spiritspeaks.com, it says, "For all sincere seekers of truth." And then it says, "When the student is ready, a teacher will appear." And for me, that has been extremely applicable all my life as a seeker. For those who really want to know, that vibration that you send out with your mind will allow you to be led to an event, a book, a movie, a speaker, and it will guide you and allow you to take the next step for whatever it is you're ready to learn and know.
In life, who has been your greatest teacher? Tell me about that person.
It's really been a collaboration. I can't really name any one particular teacher. I feel fortunate to have been brought up in the Pentecostal church with a church-based, Bible-based foundation. I believe that gave me a foundation to build on. One of the great things about a foundation of faith is that foundation gives you something to build on. Ben, I don't do a whole lot on Facebook, but recently I saw a post and it said, "I don't want to just believe, I want to know." And I believe that's the mindset that a lot of people are coming to today. We've been told to believe, just have faith, for 2,000 years. And people now are ready to know, really know, what is on the other side, why we're here, why we've been given this opportunity to live in these physical bodies. And look at the children born to Bill Gates, Steven Spielberg. They'll want for nothing. Granted, they'll have their challenges, but that kind of wealth and connection makes all the difference in the world. And then look at the children born to abusive parents, drug addicted fathers, alcoholic mothers. I mean, you could be born in China, North Korea, any place on this planet that you could be born into for whatever it is that you're supposed to learn in this lifetime. There is an outstanding movie that I recommend. Did you ever see or hear of the movie called Defending Your Life?
No.
It has Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep in it. Older movie. It's an outstanding movie that gives a perspective of what happens when you cross over. And we exist in these physical bodies. I tell people there is no death. We never really die. It's just graduation. We ride around in these bodies the way we ride around in our cars. These bodies are just a vehicle to negotiate this physical plane. And once your body wears out, or you may be taken younger in an accident or for health reasons, you just simply step away. Your spiritual being, your inner spiritual self, your consciousness will just simply step out of this physical body. You may glance back and say, thank you for the ride, or thanks for being such a good vehicle. And then you will step into the spiritual realm and then take that next step in your journey.
Okay, so that is something, as we got about 2.5 minutes to go here before we go to break, that is something that I have struggled with mightily with my own spirituality, that there are lessons to be learned by being put in horrific situations in one's lifetime, whether it's somebody being kidnapped or somebody living in North Korea or somebody born to addicted parents or even, being born with horrible diseases like cancer or anything. And, I can tell you right now that when I have my coffee or tea with God, when I get up there, hopefully I make it. Okay. I want to be able to have that conversation, just say why, because I don't really believe, and this is just personal, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people who think like me and think differently. I don't believe that coming here and being a 3-year-old getting the snot beaten out of you is a life spiritual lesson.
Oh, I agree. I agree. We don't really know. Again, we're not allowed to know. We're not allowed to remember what we may have been in a previous life, if you're open to reincarnation. But I believe that we incarnate into these physical bodies for whatever it is, lessons, experiences that we're supposed to learn. And we don't really know why, and we're not allowed to remember, and we won't really find out until we cross over and go to an evaluation center, look at how we lived our lives, what we could have done better, how we treated people. I believe this is a temporary existence. And once we get back from your break, I'll share some additional information with you on a lady that I knew who had her definite opinion on heaven, and I shared mine between heaven and hell, and it was very interesting.
Well, it is something that I think a lot of people, wonder about, because I can tell you right now that if I have to come back and be something in a horrible situation, I'm going to check out quick. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do that. That just doesn't seem like fun. And yeah, the world is a difficult place. I don't like a lot of the world right now. It's really upsetting me. And it's funny, like 20 years ago, I didn't care. I didn't care until I started opening up myself. But otherwise, I really, truly did not care about it. And now opening my eyes, even recently, I can't even watch certain reels anymore on Facebook or YouTube because it just disappoints me so much. Michael McAdams is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His website, spiritspeaks.com. We're going to continue with how to connect with your spiritual self when we return for the second half hour. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, we are clear. We got 4.5 minutes.
I'm
Fun
gonna
times. Good start.
I'm gonna step away real quick. It does go fast.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
going to step away real quick. I'm just
Yep.
going to turn my thermostat down a degree.
Not a problem.
Be right.
Be right back. All right. Woo Poo, how are you? Nice to see you. Trace B, how are you, my dear? Is it Trace or Trace E? Or Trace B? Or Track Ebb? Are you Track Ebb? Track Ebb. Bobbert, how are you? Good to have the Bobbert here. Lisa Smith. Oh, it's Lisa's birthday today. Look at that. Okay, so it's trace, like you're tracing something. Happy birthday to you, Lisa Smith. Happy birthday to you, Lisa Smith. Happy birthday, dear Lisa Smith. Because it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Lisa Smith, to you, Lisa Smith. Happy birthday, my dear, from all of us at Spaced Out Radio. There he is. How you doing, my bud? Michael, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Good. I don't have a reindeer sleigh. I'm too young to be Santa Claus, guys. I might have to dye my beard at Christmas time just so I don't get called Santa. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. Maybe that's my goal for 2026. Dye my beard. My listeners, because I sing happy birthday to my listeners when they post in that it's their birthday. So
I would imagine they appreciate that.
I think they do. Gorgeous Larry, how are you? We got about 2.5 minutes here. Right. Itchy news. 2 minutes to go.
Do you have spiritual and psychic fairs in Canada up there?
Yeah, mainly near Vancouver. I don't usually go to those.
Some are better than others. There's a company called Body, Mind, Spirit. They do shows all over the United States. But some of them are better than others. It just depends on the caliber. There is a community in New York, Western New York, called Lilydale.
Oh,
It's
wow.
the world's oldest and largest community of spirit mediums and readers.
Oh, nice.
And I can tell you, there was HBO did a documentary on Lilydale. I could share it during the show, or I could share it just with you. And I know all the mediums in that documentary. I've done presentations in Lilydale, and they have my book at the bookstore there.
Very
You
nice.
can watch that HBO documentary for free on YouTube.
All right, we're coming back in about 45 seconds. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone, Kurt, and Little Cam. Little Cam also re-upping for our YouTube membership. Thank you very much. Want to remind everybody that there are great deals to be had at the Spaced Out Radio store. Why? because we don't have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. I'm sure you're going to love it. I really do believe that. And don't forget, you can also join our YouTube membership. Be like Little Cam. Be that guy. You can be that guy. You know how. Here we go, everybody. We're into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for tuning us on in as we have Michael McAdams here to talk about connecting with the spiritual realm. My name is Dave Scott. I'm a guy who hosts these awesomely weird shows, and I hope you enjoy it each and every night when we're on the air with you. I want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, please check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Michael McAdams is here. His website, you want to check it on out, spiritspeaks.com. That's spiritspeaks.com. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you again for having me, Dave.
You got a book out. Tell us about it.
I do. The book is titled An Angel Told Me So. This book is the first of 3 volumes of a collection of messages and teachings dictated directly from spirit teachers, from the other side, dictated word for word through my mother, so I know the source. And she received these messages and teachings for 22 years. And that is the book. And that was my mother.
What are those messages? What are they like?
They speak like you've never even heard. I mean, I'm just amazed. And I've been involved in spiritual material for 30 years. And just as an example, Wilma Jean, my mother, she had been receiving these messages and teachings for probably close to 10 years. I was the one that said, this is too deep, too profound, too applicable to everyone that reads them, and that these really need to be released and put in a book. And she wasn't sure. Some of the messages were personal. She went through a divorce. I've gone through a divorce. And she was working around the kitchen one day, and these words started to come into her mind. She knew it was incoming. She picked up pen and paper. She had beautiful handwriting, and she wrote this message out in longhand. And this was a message that she felt was confirmation she should put these messages and teachings in a book. She had been praying about it. May I share this message with you and your audience?
I would love you to.
So this is what she received. Emptiness is part of fulfillment. Let your resources fill the void left so the distinction of your purpose can be found. Expression is always self-explanatory. Therefore, look inside and anchor all your beliefs beside those still waters that will take away your troubled view and renew your strength to recapture that which was lost, but is now found to be adequate to pursue the course set before you. And as you reconcile your being to represent those qualities that have been left intact, God will see to it that although circumstances have been trying, to say the least, your weariness will disappear as clouds once removed allow the sun to shine to dispel the gloom and darkness that has pervaded your countenance. And as once described before, a token to this presence will be deposited to your account and books recorded in his name.
That sounds very, very, lack of a better term, religious and scripture-like.
These messages and teachings, they do reference God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And I've had people ask, they say, well, is that because Wilma Jean was brought up with such a foundation of faith? Or are they really speaking from the heart and from a position of knowledge in the spiritual realm, which does include God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit? We won't find out for sure until we get to cross over. But these messages and teachings are extremely personal, and they do encompass all those references.
I get that. I can totally see that. I mean, it's a very magical type of message that you're receiving there from that. Are you channeling that as it goes? Is that what's happening?
You mean the way that Wilma Jean received?
Yes.
Actually, it was not channeling. I'm sure for those who may not are familiar with channeling, she wasn't channeling and she wasn't doing automatic writing. When she was led to sit down in these dedicated sessions, she had set up an electric typewriter in her kitchen. And she would be led in her mind, we have a message for you. And she would go in and sit down, light a candle, say a prayer, ask for protection because you are opening your mind. And she would see 3 or 4 words float into her mind and hang there. They would not go away until she typed them. Once she typed those 3 or 4 words, they would just fade away and 3 or 4 more would show up. That's how she got these messages. Full page, single space typed, many times with no paragraphs. She was taking dictation. And many of the messages and teachings were signed with the name of the spirit teacher that presented the message.
How do you then know that that is a real message you're getting? How do you know that this is spirit talking to you and not just what your mind is conjuring up for something beautiful to trust and rely upon?
These messages are so deep and profound that I don't think anyone on this side of the spiritual realm could come up with messages like this. And they're so applicable, everyone that reads them. On my website, spiritspeaks.com, there's tabs at the top left, bio for me, bio for my mother, and there's a tab for a television interview that she gave in Cincinnati. You can click on that tab, scroll down, watch her interview. She's the pretty lady in white on the left. Posted on her interview, I have added a message from volume 2 of the book, which is not out yet. I'm looking for a new publisher. And this was the only time in a session where she was led to sit down and receive. 2 different spirit teachers moved in the same session, gave 2 different messages, and signed 2 different names. And it was obvious that the second teacher was a different teacher than the first because the whole cadence and phrasing of the message is different. Now, this first teacher's message was just really little more than a long paragraph. May I share this message with you and your audience?
Please do.
So this was the first teacher's message. There is a resurrection period through which man must travel in order to come into the realm of things godlike. You are to consume and digest all that is given here, as this comes from one highly qualified to meet the needs of this generation. You are not the sole property of yourselves. God still holds the everlasting command over your being, and in him must one take refuge. You are to be considered as one who has been stripped of all belongings and left to die by the wayside. In this manner, are you then open to any help that would be forthcoming? You are by your very nature ones who would depend on your own intellect to carry you through. However, by giving of your soul into the hands of God, do you prosper and develop more freely into that which denies the outcome of some situations, knowing full well that it is the hand of God leading and directing you so that you may arise victorious in the end. There is never a time when you will be without the Father, nor his ever-loving approaches to see that you follow the path that directs you homeward. Take note that we say homeward, as your heavenly Father so resides in that vast insurmountable environment of time and space, so shall ye abide in joint communication with him by the grace with which he covers you, and by your ability to accept this grace and use it for your own development. There are others here who wish to make themselves known to you, so I will step aside for this time. My love and devotion follows you as you trod onward but ever faithful to your goal. And that message was signed, Your Loving Guide. Now, that next to the last line made me sit up and take notice. And he says, there are others here who wish to make themselves known to you. My question is, who are the others and where is here? What do you mean there are others here? Where are you in relation to us on this physical plane?
It's funny that in that statement that you read, I believe you used the word homeward or homebound.
Homeward.
December 13th, 2011, I had an experience with my mother that kicked off this entire journey that ended up culminating with Spaced Out Radio being what it is today. And I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes. And 2 hours after this incident, I channeled him. I didn't know what channeling was. Didn't know anything about it. Was not into this whatsoever. Okay, did I believe in ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs? Yes, I did. But that was from a far-reaching side, of minimalistic knowledge and interpretation. But 2 hours after I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes, when I channeled him, he said to me point blank, or through me, he said, if you don't start, sorry, it hits me sometimes. If you don't start treating your mother with more love and respect, I'm going to take her home. He didn't say heaven, didn't say hell. All he said was, I'm going to take her home.
That's interesting.
So when you said that, it resonated me. It actually gave me goosebumps because it's a confirmation that I don't know if there is a heaven or a hell. I'm pretty sure there's a heaven. I think the way the earth is going, and right now we probably live in hell, but that could be metaphorically speaking as we speak. And I never get to use the word metaphorically, so I'm going to use it there. Right. But I don't know where this is. What is it? What are we doing there? Because if you go by the religious aspects, there are people who believe that you go up and you recognize you age back to around 30 to 35 years old. There are people who believe that when you go up there, you don't have a physical body walking around. You're a spirit with no face, no hair, no anything. You have people who believe that dogs don't go to heaven, and yet you have people who believe they do. So, I mean, there's so much confusion about what it is and where this spiritual realm is. Is there a possibility that it's everything and not just one thing?
Well, heaven and hell is the ultimate carrot and stick. The ultimate carrot and stick. And the good place and the bad place that you go forever and ever, for all eternity. I knew a lady that had a son that was constantly getting into trouble, constantly. From the time he was 14 till he was 28 years old, the money that they spent on fines and bail and attorneys, it was just a real nightmare and a hardship on their family. She was extremely religious, brought up Baptist, went to church every Wednesday evening and Sunday, carried a Bible with her where she went. She knew she was going to heaven. And she was aware of the spiritual material and the information that I was involved in, and that I had always really questioned heaven and hell as a place that we would go to forever, for all eternity. And I asked her one time, I said, is there anything that your son could do, anything at all, that would cause you not to want to give him another chance? And she just put her head down and said no. I said, what makes you think God loves us any less? Do you really believe that we're going to be sentenced to for all eternity to eternal damnation and punishment because we were stupid, because we chose bad friends, had bad parents, were born into bad circumstances? Or do you believe that we're going to be given another chance, a do-over, a reprieve? And then look at the people living lives today all around this globe that you and I would consider to be hell on earth. I saw a news clip recently that they had found a guy dead on a street, on the sidewalk in Los Angeles, still had the aluminum foil in his left hand that had the drugs in it that killed him. They had called it into the police. Nobody had picked up the body yet. And who knows? I mean, the life that he led that led him to die on that sidewalk from drugs. Who knows why? They were all choices and decisions that he made. He wasn't destined to die like that. He chose to by his choices and decisions. So maybe that was his hell. And then will he be given another chance? I believe he will. You know, do you want to live like that again, or did you learn a lesson? And that's what we're here for, I believe, is to learn our lessons.
I agree with the lesson part. I just don't know where that actually goes. Because Lord knows I've been punched in the face a few times spiritually, my friend. I really have.
And we don't really know why. You know, bad things happen to good people. And again, you know, we don't know why. I mean, everything that we do is a product of our choices and decisions. Even being in the wrong spot at the wrong time, we chose to be there. We don't know why we had to experience that, or, you know, why we had to have that happen to us. But everything that we go through, you know, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
That is very true. That is very, very true. Chris, make that as with Christ and the Christ part of religion in this. Is there something powerful among that allows communication more freely with spirit? Because religiously, if you are very Christ-like, you're not supposed to try and connect. The Bible even speaks of false prophets and trying to communicate with those who have passed away.
I think that is a shame that it has that they were afraid of that back then. I mean, look at the mindset of the people that Jesus walked with. Jesus existed in the spiritual realm on the other side of this physical plane with God, and he incarnated into the body of the baby born to Joseph and Mary. You know, Jesus said, "As greater works as I do, and even greater works shall ye also do." So if Jesus could incarnate into the body of that baby born to Joseph and Mary, why would we not believe that we are capable of the exact same thing? We don't know. But the people, you know, that Jesus has walked with and taught and preached to, they could never have understood. We're separated from this spiritual realm by a veil, a vibration, a frequency. We don't really know what the medium is that separates us from this spiritual realm. But the people that Jesus dealt with and taught, they could never have understood that concept. They just didn't know. So we will eventually all find out. We'll all get a chance to know. And I think many will be surprised. But those with the foundation of faith, I believe they have an advantage because they're already communicating with the spiritual realm through prayer. They're reaching out in thought with prayer. And when you reach out, you should expect an answer. They said Jesus answers all prayers. Sometimes the answer is no, because they know what we need to have happen. And it depends on what you ask for. And you just sometimes, you may ask for patience and then be given situations that cause you to be more patient, not just given the patience itself. So we don't really know how it all works. And Earth could be a punishment planet for all we know.
See, that's what I'm starting to believe, is that Earth is a punishment planet, because it's getting so difficult out there for absolutely everybody. And it's turning people into really hating other people. And it's turning people into hermits because they don't want to deal with it. Very 1984 Orwellian.
If you have a foundation of faith, I mean, that helps, but only because you believe that this life, this existence is temporary, and you're going to eventually go to a good place forever and ever. My question is, and do what? If you have no choices to make, no decisions to make, everything is provided. What are you? How can you evolve? How can you learn? And you really think that you deserve to go to a place like that based on this blink of an eye existence? And then again, I don't really believe in hell because there's so many people living a life of hell right now. And it doesn't make any sense that based on this blink of an eye existence, we would be punished for all eternity with no chance for a reprieve or a do-over. So again, we'll eventually all find out.
Are you a believer then, with 3.5 minutes to go, in reincarnation?
I am. I believe that, it just makes a lot of sense because there's so many people born into lives that have just been painful to live, not because they started out that way, but because of choices and decisions that they made. That movie, Defending Your Life, that I talked about earlier, it's an older movie, and it says the true story about what really happens when you die. I highly recommend that. And there's another movie called Always with Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter. Both of those movies will give people a perspective of what happens when you cross over.
Have you ever had a near-death experience?
I have not. I have read a number of people that have, and some have seen, various things. There's some that have seen heaven, they claim, but I believe that may be more of a belief that you're going to see that when you cross over. So for those people, maybe that's what they expect, to see it so strongly that that's what they're allowed to see. But I think it's interesting that people have the near-death experience, normally told it's not your time, you have other work to do, and their consciousness is returned to their body to finish out their life. And maybe that happens to certain people to just give them that perspective, and then for the people that they'll tell their story to.
What's the best story you've heard?
Regarding a near-death experience?
Regarding just the consciousness keeping on going, whether it's a near-death experience or somebody channeling it or having communication.
Well, these messages and teachings, they repeatedly reference what, almost like why we're here, what we're here for, not specific, but it's just amazing. And it's such an amazing body of material. And even I have received messages and teachings myself. People say, well, my grandmother would receive sermons dictated to her mind and thought, and even verses to songs. And in the book, An Angel Told Me So, in the photo gallery, there are 6 verses that my grandmother received in thought, lying in a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. They didn't think she was going to make it. And she received these 6 verses, wrote them down, and those 6 verses will almost bring you to tears. So I will share additional information when we get back from your next break.
I really appreciate that, because I think the testimonial of people having these spiritual encounters, whether they're asking for them on their own or whether they are, just coming naturally, I think it's important for people to understand that it's not just imagination. It's not just a voice in your head. It's not schizophrenia. It is a higher power that is trying to communicate with you to get you the message that you need. And I think that's a fair assessment of it.
That's true. And it's so deep and profound that you can't help but believe that it's coming from a higher consciousness or a spiritual realm, another dimension, if you will.
And that's the thing. At first I thought a lot of the messages I was getting was from just my imagination making it up. It wasn't when other people start confirming it, so that's what makes it fun. Michael McAdams is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His website, spiritspeaks.com. His book, An Angel Told Me So, can be found on his website right now, spiritspeaks.com.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, my friend, we are clear. I'm going to take a quick break. We got about 5.5 minutes, okay?
All right, I'm going to get a little more water here.
Sounds good. We'll be right back. Right back, everybody. Right. Let's get you back in here. How you doing? We got about a minute 23.
All right. You're good at this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Just going to quickly say hello to our new listeners coming on in. Jaquetta, how are you? And let's see who else has come in here. Terry Hall and your beautiful mustache. How you doing? Is it Jules' birthday too? Well, it's not your birthday yet. You got to wait till midnight for me, Jules. You get your song tomorrow. You do. You get your song tomorrow. Because I'm still on West Coast time. I got to stick to the rules. All right. Big thank you tonight to Lil Cam, Kurt M, and T-Bone for the super chats. Thank you, Lil Cam, as well for re-upping on our YouTube membership. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you for the love. Remember, our store is always open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you there, so make sure you go check them on out. Here we go, everybody. Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tersit. Tersit is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our guest tonight is Michael McAdams. He's an author, researcher, experiencer of talking to those in the spirit realm and guiding the messages that come from it. His website is spiritspeaks.com, where you can find his book, An Angel Told Me So. Make sure you go get it. Michael, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Well, thank you again, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a great time so far. Now, tell us about the Urantia book. T-Bone is wanting to know because Edgar Casey potentially read that.
I'm a fan of Edgar Casey. I'm in Dayton, Ohio, and Edgar Casey actually lived in Dayton, Ohio for 1.5 years. So, yeah, the Urantia book is interesting. It's advanced material. It's sponsored by a foundation out of Chicago called the Urantia Foundation. Urantia is their name for the earth. So it's really the earth book. It was transmitted through an individual in 1935, first published in 1955. It's been translated into 16 languages, over 4 million copies in print. And you don't read the Urantia book like a novel. It's my light reading, 2,107 pages. But you read it, you can it's also available on their website, the Urantia website. I think it's urantia.org. And you can read the whole book for free online. But it's a difficult book to read off your computer monitor. It's better to read it holding the book. And I recommend the hardback rather than the softback because it's larger. But there's only 4 parts to the book. And the 4th part is a 650-page section on Jesus that sounds like they were standing beside him with a microphone for 33 years. And the detail is amazing. And it agrees with the Bible about 98%. Little twists on stories and stuff, but nothing to get upset over. And it's just an amazing body of material.
So for those of us who do not know what the Urantia book is, please give us a synopsis of it.
Well, the book, it details the entire hierarchy of the spiritual realm. and various levels, not only just spirit guides, spirit teachers. If you go to the book and look in the index, the book is a series of papers that are numbered and titled, and out to the right of each paper is the author of that paper. But these authors are not people, they're celestial beings with various names. Ancient Melchizedek, a one high in authority, brilliant morning star. It's just, it reads like they know exactly what they're talking about, but it's a little deep and a little heavy for most people. Again, not to be selfish, but I recommend these messages and teachings in An Angel Told Me So to lead people into being able to accept information like the Urantia book. But I was most interested, again, with my foundation of faith, reading this 650-page section on the life and teachings of Jesus. And it talks about who Jesus was before he came to the earth. And it talks about why he came, what he decided that his goals were going to be, how he chose the apostles. It's just the detail is just beyond anything that most people have ever read.
How come from the majority of us we've never heard of this? It almost sounds like it's almost like the Book of Enoch, where many people, like everybody's heard of the Bible, but nobody understands that there's a missing book in the Book of Enoch.
That's true. Again, when the student is ready, a teacher will appear. And possibly, I was led, I actually had a psychic who gave me a copy of this book years and years ago. And she said, "Here, Michael," she said, "you're ready for this." So I had never heard of it before until it was presented to me. And I've tried to share it. It's a link on my website, spiritspeaks.com. And again, you can read the whole book online for free. And there are study groups all over the world, all over the country. I'm sure there's groups in Canada. And you can, on their website, you can go to study groups, put in your zip code, and you can find groups that will read and talk about the Bible or the Urantia book, kind of like Bible study, where you read passages, talk about it. Real intelligent group of people. And you can make a really nice class of good friends with spiritual intent from that reader site.
How do you do this? Like when you're getting these messages, are they coming in telepathically? Are they coming in through automatic writing? Are they coming in through other ways? Fill me in.
I don't receive really that many messages. I have received a number of them, but the messages and teachings in the book, An Angel Told Me So, were really all messages and teachings that my mother received via dictation over a period of 22 years. She received by seeing words and typing them down with a typewriter. Anything that I have ever received, I receive in thought, just dictated to my mind in thought.
Okay, so she carried the gift to you then.
I was actually the one that got her involved in it first. I believe that we all have this ability. You can call it a gift, but I think it's just a natural, innate ability that we all have to be able to receive from our spirit guides, spirit teachers, angels, again, if that's your perspective. When Wilma Jean, I had talked about earlier, the message where the two spirit teachers moved in the same session. And if I can finish up on that real quick, I read the first teacher's message that was signed, "Your loving guide." That guide moved out, says, "There are others here who wish to make themselves known to you." He moved out. Another teacher moved in, gave it a full page and a half, single space typed. Now, I won't read that entire message, but these messages and teachings always end with either a profound and deep last paragraph or a deep and meaningful last sentence. So this second teacher moved in, gave a page and a half, but the last paragraph in his message is really profound and telling. May I share this with you and your audience?
Please do.
So this was the last paragraph in the second teacher's message. You are not as sheep herded here and there, but you are likened unto the lamb that is cared for individually, nourished and loved until the full and total development allows it to be master of itself. So is man so kept and denied only those things that would not in the long run nourish his spirit. God is all wise and loving in his dispensations. We are not to judge the workings of our Father, nor are we to judge each other. Work always to improve your own beings, for in the end time, there lies your soul, with all the nourishment that you have given it, totally dependent upon the outcome of your intentions. That message was signed, your loving spiritual teacher. Two different teachers, one signing their message, your loving guide, the other signing your loving spiritual teacher.
Which is beautiful.
I think it's just an amazing and relevant, just so relevant that there isn't anyone who can read these messages and teachings that will not identify with the material and the message being given.
It sounds so complicated. Like when I listen to you speak, I guess I'm trying to figure out how you are doing it personally, because I equate it to channeling, but you're not channeling, you're receiving. So are these being downloaded to you?
No, I'm actually reading excerpts from the book. These are excerpts, these are messages and teachings that my mother, Wilma Jean Jones, received.
I get that.
So,
Okay,
and she
but for
was
yourself.
taking dictation.
But for yourself, as you move forward, you've dictated this, but for yourself in your own spiritual process, how is that working for you?
Well, I'd be happy. I can share a message, an actual message that I received, dictated to my mind and thought. When I was first looking for a publisher, I was on a number of different publisher websites.
Right.
One of the websites asked questions about your work. One of the questions was, what makes your material unique? Why would anyone want to read this? Great question. And I was sitting where I'm sitting right now at my computer. I didn't really even ask for an answer, but an answer started to be dictated to my mind. It was 12 lines long. I just typed it down. And when it got to the end, it stopped. I have read this answer to a number of hosts on the air, and more than one has teared up. May I share this answer with you and your audience?
I would love you to. Thank you.
So this is something that I received. The question was, what makes your material unique? And this is the answer that I was given. The uniqueness of any material is in the manner in which it touches the soul. An open and searching mind pulls the soul and the body in which it inhabits onward and upward with hunger and determination in its quest for spiritual nourishment, ever mindful that the path upon which we walk is the path toward God. Lives lived, experiences endured, goals accomplished, and loved ones lost are all encounters upon that path. Strive always for the highest possible communication with our Heavenly Father. Believe in yourself as the Father within you is guiding, leading, directing, and comforting you upon this journey that we call life. Blessings be upon you as you walk your chosen pathway.
That's a beautiful message.
And that was not me. I take no credit for that. I mean, I probably could have come up with an answer, but nothing that deep and profound. And we're all capable of receiving in this manner. It may not be that deep to start out with. It may be quiet, but it's normally advice, guidance, direction, support. And then depending on your level and how far you've come and where you're at in your thought process, depends on what you will receive as higher teachers start to move in. And in these 3 volumes of An Angel Told Me So, it was obvious that as the years went by, this was received over a 22-year period, the 3 volumes. higher teachers started moving in, giving even deeper, longer, more profound teachings, longer messages. And in one of the messages that Wilma Jean received, what the Spirit teacher referenced higher teachers. And he said that it felt like a he, we've received information from higher teachers, and we in turn share it with you. This Spirit teacher acknowledged that they were receiving from even higher teachers than they were. And I thought that was interesting.
The guidance that you had to write this book from your mother's writings, this had to affect you on a very personal and emotional level, because you're tapping into somebody who you absolutely love and adore and who gave you life. How has this process been for you in writing this out?
It's an honor for me to be able to share this information. I feel that I am representing our Heavenly Father. I'm representing my mother and all of her hard work, and representing the Spirit guides, Spirit teachers, master teachers that took their time and made the effort to reach out to Wilma Jean, my mother, for 22 years. And when she would be led to sit down in these dedicated sessions, it would take her 3 to 4 hours, just receiving 3, 4, 5 words at a time. It would take 3 to 4 hours for her to receive a message for her and then a message for me. And again, as the years went by, higher teachers started moving in, giving even deeper, more profound teachings, many times not necessarily addressed to Wilma Jean or myself, but still relevant to everyone that reads them.
The relevance is always there, but a lot of times when we get spiritual messages, they seem very vague, or they're defined as vague. How do you build the message into an open-hearted piece of knowledge from a lot of times Spirit will give you something very vague?
These messages and teachings in the books, the 3 volumes of An Angel Told Me So, these are extremely specific. I mean, it's not vague, and the teachings, they mean what they say. They say what they mean, and they mean what they say. And like the Bible is so open to interpretation. I mean, you've got all these different religions, Methodist, Baptist, Pentecostal, all based on one book. And I'm just wondering if God isn't sitting somewhere saying, this is not what I had in mind. So, and then you have pastors, various pastors that will take sections or passages from the Bible and read the passage and then give a 20-minute sermon on what it meant. When I was in church, I got it the first time. But that's what they do. And then they interpret that and try and apply it toward people's lives and what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. These messages and teachings in the book are not like that. They are specific. There was a message, and this is something that I just came across recently that I was really amazed at. I had not thought about this. This was a message from volume 3 of the book, just showing how much higher these teachers came through and the information that they shared. May I share this message with you and your audience?
Please do. We got 5 minutes.
So this was a message from volume 3. And they said, therefore, be diligent in your efforts here as we seek to inform you of avenues of travel yet realized. And in order to propel you toward this goal, we must seek his intentions for your development in such a way that time is not wasted. Always we encourage you toward his raiment of covering as blessed moments capture the essence of his being. Untold perhaps, still in his ability to conserve that which will be needed for events following his transcendence into the hearts that are hungry to be filled. Whenever you are weary of events countering your abilities, realize he has his hand in yours. And as surely as you are receiving now these words of enticement, know that all that has been given before thus needs be fulfilled before any type of inducement would take you away from his promises given. Therefore, enter into a place of rest and confidence, for as we journey together, we will see that all else is put in order also, as a means of escape is reserved for those who seek his will for their lives and who are not dependent on any other source. I mean, who talks like that? To this day, I am amazed at the depth and quality of these messages and teachings that these high teachers presented, dictated word for word. Again, this wasn't channeling, this wasn't automatic writing. They dictated this 3 and 4 words at a time. And to carry a thought that profound and deep, a message, just 3 and 4 words at a time, it would be difficult, if not impossible, for you and I to explain a concept this deep, just 3 and 4 words at a time, waiting for somebody to write it down.
There's a lot of humility in the messages that you are getting, because I think what these messages, just the ones that you have read off tonight, they seem a little humbling, and that we have to take a little bit deeper thought inside of us. Talk about that humility that we need to seek.
That is true. And I have noticed that myself, that it almost presents a deep sense of reflection. And it's something that makes people think about their lives, think about their intentions, think about possibly even why they're here and what we may have to look forward to. And it's a guidance more than anything else, guidance and direction, I believe, that gives us food for thought. And then we make of it what we will.
Does that work for a lot of people, though? Because ego does get in the way.
You can't speak for everybody. You know, it really depends on what people want to know. And again, that thing that I had read, that post, it said, I don't want to just believe, I want to know. And for people that want to know, who are ready to know, this material is being made available. And then it's up to people to do what they will with it, how they will adopt or accept these teachings, reflection on their own life, how they're living their lives, what they expect to see, you know, when we leave this temporary existence. It's all a matter of perspective. People with a foundation of faith, they really know. I know a guy, a personal, not a really friend, but an acquaintance. And if it doesn't come from the Bible, he doesn't want to know it. He doesn't want to read anything that doesn't come from the Bible. I've tried to make these messages available. I've suggested movies, documentaries, the Urantia book. He wants none of it, absolutely none of it. If it's not in the Bible, he doesn't want to know it. And to me, that's extremely closed-minded. I mean, biblical scholars, scientists, how can you not want to know new information that's made available? But that's his choice.
We have about 45 seconds to go. And really, this is what you're saying is you can get all the messages that you want, but free will in the end is still going to take over for humanity.
Well, for individuals, you know, they have free will, but they have the ability to accept or reject any guidance, direction, support that's given. And if you're willing to accept what they're offering, then I believe it just makes your life, your existence so much more deeper and more rich in the ability to be able to handle whatever life throws at you.
I love it. I absolutely love it, because it makes things so much more simplistic than what they are today. And right now we're living in an extremely complicated world, whether it's politically, whether it's militarily, whether it's just life in general. So the message, it maybe is that we just need to take a step back and stop convoluting everything. And on that note, Michael McAdams, we have until the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio.
listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, my man, we are clear. Flying on by.
I like some of the comments that I see. Are these all your chat people?
Yes,
I like some of the comments that they're making.
They are cruising away, my man. They are cruising away.
When we, as we continue here, I actually received a message, a personal message to me that was dictated to my mind so fast I was scribbling to keep up. I came home from work one evening and just went upstairs to change clothes, and these words, greatness and spirit, came into my mind. And I will share that one here, but I feel like it applies to everyone who's in this work.
Yeah, we'll do that next.
And then, like I said, any questions that you've got?
Yep, we have a few so far.
I'm surprised how fast this is going.
Well, when you're having good conversation, it tends to happen.
You ask good questions. I like that.
Thank you.
And when we get off the recording here, Dave,
Yes.
I will share some additional information with you, some movies, that HBO documentary on Lilydale, and then if I can, well, actually, I have your email address because you sent me an email earlier.
Yes.
I like to share 3 messages from volume 2 of the book, including the message where the 2 spirit teachers moved in, actually 4. These spirit teachers, and we can get into this in the next conversation, they repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise. And there was a message that Wilma Jean, my mother, was getting in volume 2, and she stopped right in the middle of the message. And she asked a question, she typed a question. She said, who is the I and the we that's presenting this information? And they congratulated her for asking and gave a 3-paragraph description of who they are.
Very cool. We have about 2.5 minutes.
Okay, but that's a little much to try and read in this context. The shorter ones are better. But anyway, I'll share that with you, and you can print those. They're Microsoft Word documents.
Sounds good. Let's see. If you have any questions in the chat room for Michael, put them in capital letters. I will get to them in the next half hour. I will. We got about 1:40.
All right.
You guys have snow there yet?
We had just about 6 inches last Tuesday, this past Tuesday and Wednesday, but it's raining. It's been raining all day here, and all the snow's gone. And it was really, really cold. We had 2 days where it got down to single digits, like 1 degree, 2 degrees, only a high of like 14 or 15 during the day. That lasted for 2 days, and then it warmed back up. Yesterday was 40. I think it was close to 50 today in rain.
Oh, wow.
So, but then it's supposed to cool off again. I mean, this is December. It's that dreaded polar vortex that you've heard so much about.
I hear you there. We got it a few days ago as well. Jumped up into the high 40s here, melted all our snow.
When you saw all the rain that Seattle had,
Yep.
I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, my area too, in my hometown. We have 10 seconds. Thank you to Deborah Rooney, T-Bone, my man, Kurt, and Lil Cam for the super chats. Thank you, Lil Cam, for re-upping on your membership to our YouTube channel as well. Here we go. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Our guest is Michael McAdams, and we are having a great conversation about connecting to spirituality tonight. So thank you for tuning us on in. I want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Michael McAdams is our guest tonight on the show. His website, spiritspeaks.com, and his latest book, An Angel Told Me So, as we get deep into the spiritual realm. Now, Michael, before the show, you actually had a message that was passed to you.
The personal message that we spoke about?
Yes.
Yeah, I have received personal messages to me. This particular message, this is one of the 3 prints that I offer on my website, spiritspeaks.com, as the spiritual parchment prints. They're on parchment paper, heavy parchment paper, and I can actually show this on camera.
Well, we have to make sure we describe it for our radio audience.
Right. It's a set of writings, set of 3 writings, faded picture of Jesus on parchment paper. And this particular message, I had owned a business. I came in from work one evening, went upstairs to change clothes, and these words, the words greatness and spirit, came into my mind. I knew it was incoming. I opened a drawer, pulled out a tablet and a pen, and these words started coming into my mind so fast, I was scribbling to keep up. And I really even had a tough time typing it the next day because I was having trouble reading some of the words. This was given as a personal message to me, but I feel that it applies to all of us who are in this work. May I share this message with you and your audience?
Love for you to do that.
So the words greatness and spirit came into my mind, and this is the message that I was given. Greatness and spirit shall touch the lives of many whom you will come into contact with. Hearts and lives will be touched and changed by your presence. Enable yourself by the will of your being to respect and respond to the changes in individuals as you become aware of the true potential of your spirit. In the eyes of God, thou hast made thyself worthy of all the riches and gifts of spirit that shall be forthcoming unto you. Be as you will in relationship to the Holy Spirit that inhabits and dwells within thy being at this time. Look always to the future with anticipation and gladness, for thou hast made thyself a living receptacle for the Spirit of God, and all good things shall come to thee. Now that's an amazing message to get as a personal message. But again, I feel that it applies to all of us who are in this work.
I think that's a very deep, understanded message right there.
I was amazed.
Let's get to some audience questions. Let's start off with T-Bone. The quote you gave from the Urantia book, pardon me, when I asked you about it, there was a quote that you gave, and T-Bone was wondering if it was from the Urantia book, if you could elaborate on it.
No, all of the messages and teachings that I have read this evening are all from An Angel Told Me So. These are all either messages that I received or messages and teachings that were dictated through my mother, Wilma Jean Jones. The Urantia book is, again, advanced material, And there is some heavy, deep information there. And I have a contact page on my website, spiritspeaks.com. And if anyone would be interested, I have probably 8 or 10 pages and papers that I recommend for new readers of the Urantia book. Most of them are in the section on the life and teachings of Jesus, but 2 are in the main body of the book itself. And for anyone who would be interested, if they would want to contact me on my contact page, I would share those recommendations that they could read, again, for free on the Urantia book website.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's move on to another question from our audience here. Let us go over to Jules here. Would you be shocked or disappointed if it ended up being entities, but not angels or God that the messages are coming from?
These messages and teachings, the ones that have been signed, many are signed with the name your loving guide or your loving spiritual teacher. Many in singular, others in plural, your loving spiritual teachers, your loving spirit guides. Wilma Jean, my mother, received a message addressed to her that was signed your spiritual counterpart. I have messages to me that were signed your spirit brothers, your spirit light. There was even a message in the book that's signed with the initials LZ. And we never really got a name for that, but LZ were the initials. So again, these are all spiritual beings from the spiritual realm, celestial beings, if that's an appropriate term. So we don't, again, for those with the foundation of faith perspective, these would be angels, archangels, guardian angels, but they sign their names spirit guides and spirit teachers. And throughout all of these messages and teachings, none of the names that were signed your loving angel, your loving, guardian angel. None of them were signed with an angel representation. But the title of the book, An Angel Told Me So. But how do you know this to be true? An angel told me so. This was the title that Wilma Jean was given from Spirit as to what the title of the book should be.
I want to know about where you go from here.
Well, my goal is to finish, is to publish volumes 2 and 3 of the book. I may do a revised edition of volume 1, and then just share this information and let everyone that I'm able to speak with or expose this information to, share this information with, that they too have this ability, an innate ability that they're born with, we're all born with, to be able to communicate with our spirit teachers from the spiritual realm, spirit guides, spirit teachers, again, angels, if that's your perspective, and to share that how temporary this physical existence is and what we have to look forward to. And that, again, there is no death. We never really die. It's just graduation. And we have so much to look forward to when this physical life ends. And there is no end to our existence. They call it the continuity of life. And that's what we have.
Do you think then, with that quality, do you think that when you move forward that it's going to continue the writings and teachings, or do you think the writings and teachings will take, a different road on the turnpike and take you down into a different direction?
Are you talking about the information that I've already that Wilma Jean has already received?
No, I'm saying what you're going to receive in the future.
I don't know how much more I will receive. I mean, I'm open to anything that they care to share. But again, my mission, my goal is to share and make this information available that Wilma Jean received in these 3 volumes of An Angel Told Me So, that she took so much time and effort to receive over a 22-year period. I believe that's why I'm here.
Do you find that the messages that were received by your mother, that they will eventually go towards humanity's directions or challenges in this modern world?
It's a reflection of what they have access to more than anything else. That it's confirmation that we're not alone and that these spirit teachers have our best interests at heart. Again, their joy is in our recognition of their existence. Now, we were talking about the Urantia book, and in the Urantia book, there's a section that talks about personalized thought adjusters. And it says that each of us has our own personalized thought adjuster. And at the age of our first moral decision, when we make a decision that shows that we know right from wrong, normally around the age of 4 to 4.5 years old, we are assigned a personalized adjuster, thought adjuster. We don't have to be obedient. It's just an adjuster. And that adjuster will stay with us for life, offering guidance, direction, support. And we all have at least one. And again, depending on your level of spiritual advancement, you may have higher teachers, higher guides. We don't really know, what the spiritual realm carries for each of us. I would imagine Jesus probably had a battalion.
I want to get to a couple more questions for you here, because that's kind of what we do. All right. So the next question that I have for you regarding this would be, looking at the challenges that you have in getting these messages out, the public's reaction to this. Every time we put out a positive message such as this, there are always the people who look at this with a skeptical eye or critique the messages that are around the channeled visions or telepathic conversations that we're having. Have you received any of that? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I actually have not. In these messages and teachings that Wilma Jean received, they reference repeatedly God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. There isn't anything in these messages and teachings that would disagree with anyone with the foundation of faith. It does not agree specifically with the Bible. There is an outstanding documentary that was produced by A&E, Arts and Entertainment. And they had a series, this was years ago, and it was an 18-part series called Mysteries of the Bible. I think you can still get it at various libraries. But the last two documentaries that they did were titled Who Wrote the Bible? And it was a documentary, a DVD on the Old Testament, one on the New Testament. And it's like a travel log of the Holy Land. Very drone video, pictures, paintings, the way they tell the story. It's narrated by Richard Kiley, distinctive voice, and Gene Simmons reads the Bible passages. And it's an amazing documentary on how the King James Version of the Bible came to be. And a lot of people just don't understand how the various books of the Bible were assembled, and there were books put in and books left out, and how this King James Version that people lived their lives by came to be, and who wrote the Bible, the various authors of the books of the Bible. So that's something that people can look up if they're interested.
Have you ever had messages that come extraterrestrially?
No, I have not, although I would love to. We're talking X-Files?
Yeah, sure.
The X-Files with Mulder and Scully?
Yep, I'm pretty familiar.
It's on the Comet Channel every night here. I have not. I would be open to it. I read something one time. It said when aliens drive past the Earth, they lock their doors.
It's not very. I don't think there's. That's very far fetched at all.
Well, I don't either. Again, we sit here on the Earth here, in the outer edge of the Milky Way galaxy, and the Milky Way galaxy, the Earth here is our point of origin if you've seen the movie Stargate. But people don't realize how vast this physical plane is. The Milky Way galaxy is 2,000 light years across. That's 186,000 miles a second times 2,000 years. It's 1,000 light years thick. And the next closest galaxy to ours is Andromeda, and it's 30 light years away. The James Webb Telescope has photographed galaxies 7,000 light years away. I mean, there are billions of galaxies and trillions of potential planets with societies and civilizations and intelligent life. We're not alone. I think we're just out here out here on the edge in the low rent district so that we don't contaminate any other intelligent life. We don't really know. But it's amazing the vastness of this physical plane, and to know that there's a spiritual realm just as vast adjacent to this physical plane, and that we're going to find out what's on the other side one of these days.
Let's go to another question here. What do you see as the next step for the spiritual path that you're on?
Well, my goal, again, is to just share this information with all sincere seekers that I can find or reach out to. And if I can just share this information to let people know that they too can receive, that this is not unique. I mean, it may be deep and profound, maybe deeper and more profound than other people would think they're capable of receiving, only because of the dedication that Wilma Jean, my mother, had, and the openness that I have to this material. But that is my goal, and just being able to share this information with all who are interested. And if they're ready, the material's available.
Was there a moment that while writing these messages from your mom that you ever just doubted where this was going, or if the book would even be completed?
No, I really never had any doubts. And when she would type these messages down, I got a copy of every single message that she ever received. She had her own copy, and then she would make a copy for me because she knew that I was interested in these. But in each session in volume 1, again, she would receive a message for her and a message for me. So once this material, I just typed it in as a manuscript, and these messages and teachings, I'm the messenger, and I weave a narrative between each message as to what was going on in her life, my life, and sharing the story. And that's what these messages and teachings are.
6 minutes to go here with you tonight. The show's flying on by. At some point, for most of us who have the ability to channel or communicate, those messages start to die down as we get older. Okay, contact seems to die down, experiences seem to die down. I still haven't figured out why that is, but a lot of people who I talk to say that's happened to them as well. Do you think moving forward, if you keep these lines of communication going and open for translation, that they're not good, whoever they are not going to close the door on you?
I do. And it could be that as people get older, their lives become simpler. They're less involved with various, choices, decisions. They're retired. They don't have choices and decisions in their job. They may travel, but it depends on what you're interested in and how far you want to continue your own spiritual journey. And when you find out that this material is available, just like the people that have never heard of the Urantia book, or so few have, but once they get into it, they can't believe all the information that's there. Same way with these messages and teachings, to have 3 volumes that people can incorporate these teachings into their lives, it just gives them something to look forward to.
What do you look forward to, though?
Really just being able to share this information with the widest possible audience, being able to to speak to groups, be able to carry this information, and again, represent the spirit teachers and my mother throughout all of this information that she worked so hard and spent so much time to be able to receive. And that this material will affect people's lives and let them know that they too can receive in this manner. That's what I'm here for.
And maybe you wake up one morning and just say, I've got a whole different set of messages for the world. Because realistically, if they're sending you these downloaded messages, you really don't know what's coming, do you?
No, I really don't, but I'm open to anything that they would care to share. And they know that I'm open. And I'm spoken to and thought normally on a very regular basis. And one of the things that I've been told more than once, and it's just the thought that it's like you're being spoken to, and it said, "We prepare the minds of men for your arrival. We show you the way when so many have lost theirs." And I have been given that line many, many times, just not even thinking about anything. We prepare the minds of men for your arrival. And that's my goal. That's what I'm working toward.
Have any of these beings that have sent you these messages, have they ever shown themselves to you?
No, I've never seen any apparitions. I've never seen any visions or had any visions of spirit teachers or again angels, if that's your perspective. It's all been information, just like you're being spoken to in thought. And if you can distinguish, once you are able to distinguish between an incoming thought from the spiritual realm, from your spirit teacher, angel, if that's your perspective, and a thought that you think, when you can recognize the difference, then you are in tune and more receptive to anything that will be given, and anything that is given is always an advantage to you in life. It will always be positive.
What about people who get negative messages?
If there are any negative information that's being made known to their mind, they have to decide if it's something that they're thinking themselves or if it's something that is incoming. And if it is incoming and they don't want it to be part of their thought system, they can simply surround it with an energy and disregard it, send it out into the deepest part of the universe, and control their thought system and not let it allow them not allow that information to affect their thinking. It takes some discipline. It takes some work. It's not always easy, but it's can be done, and it just depends on how protective you want to be of your thought system.
We have under a minute to go here with you tonight. And I want to say a big thank you for you coming on Spaced Out Radio. And Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to share your story, your wisdom from what you've learned through spiritual teaching. Do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find your book.
Well, the book itself, An Angel Told Me So, is available on my website, spiritspeaks.com. It's available through Barnes and Noble bookstores. Ingram is my national distributor. So if anyone has an independent bookstore anywhere, most all of these independent bookstores will deal with Ingram, and they can order the book, and it's available on Amazon.
And at spiritspeaks.com is your website. Thank you, Michael, for coming on Spaced Out Radio. We greatly appreciate you doing this for us. What a great time this last couple of hours was. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. Then the wizard, Josh Rutledge, will be in for the UFO report. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Great job tonight, Michael. Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed that, Dave. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would love to do this again sometime, except that I don't have any new information. It would just be a repeat of everything that I've shared. I've got your email address, so I'm going to send you those. How much time do you have here?
I gotta get going pretty quick here.
Okay. I was going to send you, I can send you some movies, those
Sure.
movies that I think you would really enjoy. I can show
Sure.
you I can tell you how to watch the Lilydale documentary, and I'll share these messages that I'm going to send you in an email.
Appreciate it.
I'll send you all that in an email.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
And any feedback from this that you want to share, or you can let me know when it's available on YouTube. And I really enjoyed getting to meet you and talk to you, Dave.
Absolutely, man. It'll be ready in about 90 minutes.
Wow, you're quick. All right, yeah. If you get any feedback or any response from this radio broadcast, feel free to let me know.
I will.
And you now have a new friend in Ohio.
Thank you so much, my friend. You take care, okay? Merry
Thanks,
Christmas
Dave.
to you.
Nice meeting you.
Take care. Michael McAdams, everybody. He's just a nice guy. He's just a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate him. I'll be right back, everybody. All right, here we go. And we'll bring in the wizard. There he is.
There he is.
Look at you, the wizard. Hanging that
Ah,
out.
how are you doing, Dave?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm overly excited because McDonald's opened up in our town tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I had a Big Mac for dinner.
Is it the same menu in Canada?
Yeah, pretty
How's it?
much. Pretty much. Food tastes different. I can't eat American McDonald's. Tastes so different.
I've heard that. I've also heard that because of the restrictions that are placed on
Beef.
the amount of sugar and things that can be in certain foods, that even the bread tastes completely different outside of the US.
Yes. We got 5 seconds coming up here, wizard. Hold on. We've got hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming at you tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tersit. Tersit is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I live on the west coast of Washington. Recently, I went on a drive I take very often. It follows the Spokane River for a while. I decided, since I had taken this drive many times, and I love how scenic it was, it would be okay if I did it alone. I always took a friend because there isn't any service for miles once you're out there. I went further than usual though, driving about 50 miles out, taking pictures and stuff like that because I had bought a camera a year ago and just never really used it. I did not even end up taking very good pictures, but it was still cool to go out further than I had before. Although I will never take this drive again. It does follow the river, but there's also some thick woods in that area too. I don't know about other places around Washington or the Northwest, but we have painted rocks, old Indian paintings that have been preserved on their original rocks with a gate to keep people from messing with them. Up until that day, I thought we only had the one, but on that drive I saw another one, although the gate was too short and anyone could really jump it if they wanted to. As I was driving back, it started to get dark. It was a good 30 miles away from town when I saw what I saw. At first, I thought it was a coyote. Now, I grew up in a hunting family. I'd seen more coyotes than I could probably count, but I remember being excited because I hadn't seen one in quite some time. It was just off the side of the road behind the barricade that keeps your car from going off the road. But as soon as I got closer to it, this thing stood up on its hind legs. This thing clearly was not a coyote. I know what coyotes look like, and they are not taller than a person on their hind legs. That's for damn sure. By the time I passed it, it had ducked behind the wall. I was in full panic mode at this point. I was still a good way from my town, by myself, with no service anywhere. I ended up almost flipping my car going around some sharp turns because I was going close to 80 in a 35 zone. I honestly wanted to get back into town so bad, but every now and then, out of the corner of my eye, I'd see this thing in the trees. Somehow, it was keeping up with me. Now I am fully aware of the fact that it was dark and I was terrified. So all of those times could have been my mind playing tricks on me. But the first time I saw it, right by the road, I know what I saw. That was not my mind playing tricks on me. But I also do not know much about the legends about the Spokane tribes, or if we have skinwalkers up here. But I honestly just don't honestly know how else to describe it. I mean, what really freaked me out is the eyes. Again, my hunting family. I remember growing up, my dad always told me to look out at the trees while driving at night, and if I saw glowing things, it meant there was an animal. I had spotted plenty of deer and raccoons that way as a kid, but whatever this thing was, its eyes did not glow. I never got a good look at its eyes. Again, I was more focused on getting the hell out of there rather than looking at what its eyes did. But human eyes don't glow. I honestly think that's what bothers me the most. So if anyone can give me information on if this thing was a skinwalker or something else, I would be greatly appreciative.
All right, let us say thank you to Swamp Dweller tonight for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every day and night, so make sure you check it on out. Right here, we keep going on. It's time for the Wizard and the UFO Report.
Space already presents a UFO report. The UFO wizard makes his presence known. Just ready to go.
All right, we have the Wizard Josh Rutledge in. He's a part of MUFON down in the beautiful state of Arizona, and he is here for the UFO Report. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Fantastic. I am, as of this moment, I am off work for the next 10 days, and I am ecstatic.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. You know what happened to me today?
What's that?
My town's McDonald's finally opened up. First one in my town. People have been griping about wanting a McDonald's for like 30 years in my town. We finally got it. I went through the drive-through because the drive-through opened, what they call a soft opening.
Yeah.
I wanted to play a trick, and I didn't do it. I wanted to play a trick that when I went up to the window, or, you go to the board, hi, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order, please? I wanted to ask right off the bat if the ice cream machine was broken. I did. And I thought, you know what? I'm sure out of the hundreds of people who are already there already, I'm sure that's been asked, and I don't want to be that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I left humor because I was going to record it. Day one, is the ice cream machine broken? I didn't do it. I lost the opportunity right there.
Somebody else beat you to it, and now it's trending on TikTok.
Probably, but it would have been funny if I did. I just don't like embarrassing myself for people. Every now and again, you got to poke fun at yourself. But no, I had a Big Mac tonight. I like a good Big Mac. I do. The fries. And I will say this. I don't drink a lot of Coca-Cola. I'm a Pepsi guy. But McDonald's Coca-Cola is so good. It is so good.
Do you know the secret? Do you know the secret why it's so good? Every other fast food chain that uses Coca-Cola has dispensers. McDonald's cools their dispensing lines. So the syrup, the carbonated soda water is cooled, but the syrup arrives cooled as well, and that's why it hits different.
Really?
Yep.
I never knew that.
Yep.
How do you know?
The more you know. So yeah, it's because they the only other place that I've had that has similar tasting Coca-Cola is Chick-fil-A.
I'm not. Maybe I'm. I know it's an American thing, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Okay, I know, but I'm going to tell you right now, when I've eaten Chick-fil-A in the U.S., when I've traveled down there, haven't been a fan. Don't
Oh,
see what the buzz is about it.
I'm not a fan, honestly. I think you don't get a lot of food for the price. But I'm just saying from a strictly Coca-Cola dispensing, has that kind of similar bite. Chick-fil-A is the only other restaurant that I've eaten at that has a similar type experience.
I did
But yeah,
something.
I like the waffle fries at Chick-fil-A. Those aren't bad.
I did something else tonight
Okay.
after eating that great Big Mac.
Yep.
For people who watch all the really cool stuff I put on the Spaced Out Radio store on our website, because we do not have ugly swag. I created a new t-shirt tonight. I can't believe it's taken us this long to do it. On the front, it says, "What's the password for?" And on the back, it says exactly. I did. I made it. Finally made it. A "What's the password for" t-shirt. spacedoutradio.com/shop. You can go check it on out. We got other really cool stuff there as well. So I'm pretty happy about that. A lot of people in the UFO world, Josh, literally since 2017, celebrate this week because it's the anniversary of the New York Times article that really broke open the fact that there was something being hidden in the UFO world. That article, written by Pulitzer Prize winner Ralph Blumenthal, Helene Cooper, and Leslie Keene, they all combined on it to make it a very stellar article that came out on a weekend that, and believe it or not, that is the highest grossing newspaper the New York Times has sold. Number one is 9/11 papers, obviously.
Yeah.
Number two is the UFO story.
Very cool.
And it really seemed to change the entire trajectory
Mm-hmm.
of the UFO world and creating a new study called UAP, or UApology, as I like to call it. Your thoughts on this little anniversary here?
Yeah, I had it on my list to talk about as well. So I've actually been looking at lately how has the conversation evolved since 2017? Because I think year over year, the message is just that we still don't have disclosure, and I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that significant strides towards disclosure, or even towards just an overall public awareness of the topic, have happened since the breaking of that article. And so for that reason, I think it's a significant when you think about the timeline of the UFO topic, since 1947, this would be a significant pin along that timeline, the releasing of this article. And I do think it has sparked maybe not the widespread cry from the public for "why haven't you told us," but a significant and ongoing and growing evolutionary, if you will, interest from the general public. People who before would have probably ridiculed people who had reported that they had a sighting are all of a sudden now interested and want to understand more. And then third beer in or something like that, oh well, let me tell you about this one time that I saw something. It's just it really, I think, went a long way, and the continuing efforts that stem from it went a long way towards changing the stigma of being a UFO believer, quote unquote, in the public eye.
I think it added a lot of spice to this. We saw people, and we've seen people come into this field. They couldn't tell Roswell from an apple falling from a tree prior to this.
Mhm.
Okay. And now they have helped take this story through the stratosphere. Okay. We often dwell on negative in the UFO world because it is a very, very controversial topic with controversial people in it. Whether or not you're a fan of Bob Lazar, whether or not you're a fan of Richard Dolan, whether you're a fan or not of Lou Elizondo
Mhm.
or any of the whistleblowers that have come out, so on and so forth. Whether you think there's a narrative being played like I do, or whether you think that disclosure is going to happen in the next 38 minutes, there is a ton of controversy that surrounds this subject. Proof, no proof, where's the evidence? We don't like experiencers, but experiencers seem to know what they're talking about. It's a ball of confusion. We don't dwell enough on the positive of what happened. And some of the positives since that 2017 article is it has opened up not hundreds or thousands of people into this, but hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people
Mhm.
have come to the conclusion that it's okay now to talk about UFOs. Okay. Doesn't matter whether you use the UFO term, you're old school like me, or you're like Rutledge here, who is a UAPer through and through, even has UAP underwear on as we speak. He really does. Okay. It doesn't matter. The fact is, when people talk, subjects become popular. And when people ask questions, it makes others uncomfortable because they're not answering the questions that are being asked. And I think the amount of people who have come into this field, even though truthfully, it's made it difficult for me as a radio broadcast host, because part of our job is a hybrid show. We're live on the radio 5 nights a week, but we are still having to compete with hundreds, if not thousands, of YouTube channels, TikTok channels, Instagram profiles, Facebook posts, X postings. You have to compete with that on a daily basis. And ufology or uapology has become a full-time job for many people who are trying to get the messages out. And I like that, but it's become difficult at times for what we do here. It really has. But I'm not going to short sight that as a negative. It's a positive that people are talking about it, Josh.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. When I first started doing our podcast that's of a similar topic 5 almost 6 years ago, your show and a few others were one of, they were needles in a very large podcast haystack. But you're right. There are more and more, let's say, needles that are being introduced. But like you said, it's good that people feel, at least I think, open enough to be able to host a podcast and put their name, in the public eye as a basically to identify as being interested in the topic. I'll say that, from a work perspective, you know, I now openly to all of my coworkers, and we'll do like everybody send in a trivia item as like an icebreaker thing for team building. I always put in investigates, UFOs for MUFON, because I'm not afraid to talk about it anymore. And frankly, most people who I talk about it with ping me on the side and say, let me tell you, this one time I saw this thing, so I think it's gone, like I said, it's gone a long way towards making it a safe topic, and no longer one where you're afraid of, ridicule by your coworkers or a random person. Unfortunately, though, that ridicule that used to be present in the just talking about the topic has shifted into, I'm going to ridicule you because you use UAP instead of UFO, or you believe in this topic, or you think the Draco people have infiltrated the U.S. government, or like it's now people within the topics nitpicking on what aspects of the phenomena they're willing to accept versus what other people are willing to accept. So that's the unfortunate side of it, is I guess is that the more it becomes generally accepted, the more the niche theories or things get nitpicked by those people who are now all of a sudden armchair quarterbacks, if you will, of the UFO topic. Regardless of how long people have been interested in or investigated or researched the topic in itself.
I would absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree. And the opinions of many others like that, though, want to continue the argument. I mean, you see it all the time, and that's why many old school UFO people have actually pulled away from X. They've pulled away from many of these online Discord servers or what have you. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I've never set up a Discord channel for what we do here. Never mind that their app sucks. Okay. And you can never turn it off on your phone. It's continually going on. I haven't used Discord, 5-6 years. Absolutely hate it. Hate it. But that's for another topic for another day. But going back to the New York Times article, we got 2.5 minutes to go here. What was, in your opinion, the most impactful part of it?
I think that for the most, I'll say it's equally for two parts for me. One is that many of us suspected that when Project Blue Book went away, that the government retained some mechanism for reporting and tracking UFOs. So the acknowledgement of that in the article, even if they got some of the information wrong, and that the funding wasn't established for ATIP, it was originally established for OSAP and things like that. Even if they got some of that information incorrect, it's still acknowledged that the government, yes, they had a program, they were interested in it, they were spending resources to catalog and investigate. So that was a really big one. Number two is that it also highlighted the fact that if one of these projects exists without congressional oversight, how many others exist without congressional oversight? And I think that was a significant realization for just the general public as well, and for Congress. And like I've said before, in my mind, that lack of congressional oversight is really what prompted a lot of the congressional pressure that we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years, since that initial article broke, to try to get that oversight. And in the process of trying to get that oversight, the byproduct is we know more and more and more about these legacy programs or existing programs that are in place.
Has it solved anything? 25 seconds.
No. No, it hasn't solved any. I mean, we know more, but with everything we learn, we have thousands more questions.
Very true indeed. Josh, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Hard to believe this show is flying on by tonight, that we only have 30 minutes left on Spaced Out Radio. We are going to continue with the man they call the Wizard, Josh Rutledge, and the UFO Report right here on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, there we go.
Cool.
Very clear.
Cool. So, Dave, are you thinking that you should probably buy stock in McDonald's now since you're going to help improve their profits?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have to fight staying away from there. I really am, because it's literally right on my way to work in the morning, and I love a good breakfast burrito from there. I do.
My favorite is the McGriddle.
Yeah, the 2 breakfast burrito combo with an iced tea and a hash brown, that's heaven for me. Little piece of heaven right there.
Yeah, the whoever the stoner was that came up with the McGriddle probably gets no recognition for their invention. But you know they went in and got the big breakfast plate one day, put it all together between the 2 pancakes that they gave you and ate it like a sandwich, and somebody was like, "Eureka!"
I would agree. I would agree. I would agree. I got all my Christmas shopping done yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so pumped. I only one gift for my son has not arrived yet. And I don't know if it'll arrive before Christmas. I'm hoping it does. But a couple days ago, we got him a megalodon tooth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Are you confident it's authentic?
Yeah, I got it right from this place called Fossil Exchange. They're out of North Carolina. They had a pretty good reputation on online. So, and the cool part about Fossil Exchange, they didn't charge me extra for shipping to Canada.
Nice.
Yeah. Because that's the first thing I asked was I said, do you guys ship to Canada? They're like, oh, yeah, we do. And here's the other cool part. The tooth actually came with a stand in a really nice box. Like it was wrapped up nicely in bubble wrap. And
I went to my family and I were at Disney World one time, and we were sitting like in a little booth area having a cold beverage because it was hot, and we just struck up a conversation with the couple that was sitting next to us, and it turns out that the gentleman was in the fossil world.
oh, wow.
He was on a team that reproduced fossil models. And so he told me, he's like, if you ever go into a museum and they've got, the full fossil of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, for example, it's not the original fossil. The original fossil is stored in a vault. It's a recreation that is aged and made to look like the fossil. It still inspires the same amount of interest and wow and wonder, but it doesn't put the real fossil in jeopardy of being damaged or destroyed. And so he was on a team of people that was their job. For every fossil that was found was to recreate in an almost accurate, production ready recreation of the fossil for public display. It was just a part of the fossil world I had no idea about.
I had no idea about that either.
So very cool.
We got about 40 seconds. Big thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney, T-Bone, Kurt, and Little Cam. And thank you, Little Cam, for also bringing in and re-adding to our membership on YouTube. Appreciate that. Go get your new t-shirt, spacedoutradio.com. No ugly swag. Just going to tell you, there's nothing ugly there.
Well, and I got to tell you, as a reception, receiving one of those shirts, the quality of the shirt is unlike anything that.
Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to continue on with the UFO report with Josh Rutledge, the man they call the Wizard. We appreciate Josh coming on in, but before we bring him in, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, the Wizard, Josh Rutledge, hanging on out with us. Josh, how you doing?
Fantastic, man. I'm feeling very wizardry tonight.
You should. Right before the break, we were talking about the impact of the New York Times article that happened this past week about 8 years ago. Hard to believe it's 8 years already. And for you, Josh, what else you got for us tonight?
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the Steven Spielberg trailer for the new film. We talked about it a little bit last week because he put up a billboard at New York Times Square. But then, like a day or two later, he released the first trailer. And I'm not gonna lie, it gave me not like eerie or scared chills, but like just like there was a lot of energy in that trailer that I felt at like a deep, cellular level. And I think it's going to be an interesting film. I am shocked though at the number of people online who are talking about it as an alien invasion film. And I really didn't get that from the trailer. Have you seen the trailer yet?
I'm curious about that because I was thinking about the trailer as you were speaking. The trailer to me that was released, and you could go on YouTube, type in Disclosure Day, and it'll pop right up. It didn't have the impact I thought it would. Am I going to watch it? Am I excited to watch it? Oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell yeah. To me, and I'm probably in the minority here, but to me, this is the almost 50 years later, finally a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'm already prepared to be disappointed because I hate CGI and AI. And yet going back to Close Encounters, that was all models like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I don't like those type of movies, but that's okay. I'm still going to enjoy this one. I know I'm going to enjoy it. But I don't feel that this is going to push the elements of actual disclosure forward as many UFOs and UAP sycophants think it's going to.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to push. I take that back. I've ever since we've been talking about disclosure and the government's interest in it, I've said that the public interest in the topic of UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call it, is a piece on the board of the chess game that is being played from the back and forth of the legacy program. Now we probably know is the one side, and those of us who want disclosure on the other side. But the public interest and the public opinion is one of the pieces on the board. And this movie, regardless of how it may push the understanding of the topic of disclosure, I think has the potential to bring more of the public interest into the fold of what is disclosure? Why did he pick that name for the film? What does that mean? Do you think somebody out there really does have the truth and they're just sitting on it waiting to release it? Like, it will spark a lot of conversation from people who otherwise have not been very interested in the topic. And one thing I've noticed is there's a significant gap, in my opinion, in the disclosure, the demographics of those people who were in the community and who are interested in disclosure, in that most of the community is not made up of anybody younger than 30. So the potential here for the younger generation to maybe see this film and want to know more also strengthens the argument or the push from the public on disclosure.
I told people a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that watch on X, you're going to have a bunch of people jumping out there. This is what we need for disclosure. One person was even saying that Emily Blunt was going to be testifying at the next UFO hearing because she's an experiencer and she needs to know what's going on and she's going to tell her story. Really? I mean, this is how our field looks really bad. This is why the scientists don't want to talk publicly with us.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the government agencies want us to go away. When people take a movie that is going to be based on science fiction and blow it out of proportion. There are no Easter eggs towards disclosure in this. I'll guarantee that. It's a great movie, though. And I can't wait to see it.
I think it could also serve as a societal mirror, if you will. How would potentially the public respond or react to the truth of "We Are Not Alone"? In a lot of ways, you could take this film as almost like a repeat or a sampled repeat, if you will, of the Orson Welles event that happened in the early 1900s with what was
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. Thank you. That this is a way to gauge what that public response will be. If it hits well and does really well in the box office beyond the first weekend, then I think that's an indication that the general public is at least interested in the topic of what if we're not alone and how might they respond to it. If the movie goes the route of trying to play on the fear narrative, then I think it can be significantly detrimental to the topic and the push to want to know the truth.
And you could be right on that. And, one of the things that I'm very much looking forward to in regards to this movie, and before we get to a question from our audience here, is the clicking noises. That's something that we first heard on M. Night Shyamalan's movie Signs.
Mm-hmm.
Remember
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if you've never heard the clicking in real life, I don't know if you have, Josh.
I have
as well. It's not really like you would call over a horse. It's something a little bit different. That's just my best rendition of it. Okay. And when you hear that clicking sound and the way they nailed it in the movie Signs, and then in this trailer, they have that almost identical clicking sound going on again. It put shivers down my spine, man.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like I said, I had an energetic response to it. I played it later on in the evening for my wife. I played the trailer for my wife, and then we went to bed. And I had some really interesting dreams that night, having heard that right before bed. So uh, it'd be cool to like just play the noise that's heard in the trailer, the clicking noise, and then do a meditation, or just play it and then go to bed and see, see how it affects you psychologically. The other,
When did you
I
hear?
think
Sorry for cutting you off. Tell me the story of when you heard the clicking.
Uh, I was by myself. I was sitting outside. I had been doing, I guess, a solo CE5, if you will. Um, and I still had my eyes closed. I was coming out of the meditation, but I still had my eyes closed. And I was just kind of very deep in, meditative state. My body was in like a sitting still, paralysis type state. And I was just very alert and aware to everything around me. And that's when I heard the clicking noise. And it's more like, the way that I describe it is, it's like someone who can't speak, but they're still moving their mouth and their vocal cords are making noises, but it's because it's almost like it's a physiological response to a telepathic message, where
Yes.
their mouth and stuff is still making the motion as if they're speaking, but the message is coming across telepathically. So it's like like that kind of noise.
For me, it was in 2018 when, if you've listened to this show long enough, my interaction with the alien Carl that showed up at my window back in 2015. And in 2018, he came back. And I remember being on the air that night with Olaf Phillips. And eventually I got off the phone with Olaf. I went upstairs on my patio because I was freaking out, and go outside on my patio. And it's like I'm listening to a conversation from my backyard. And I live on about half an acre. Okay. And in my backyard, there was by one of my trees, there was this type sound. And then it was like a conversation was happening up my driveway. My driveway goes about halfway up the property. And you could hear the one up my driveway responding, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I called up our Keith Andrews and I'm like, dude, Carl's back. And he goes, by the way, have you heard any weird sounds? And I'm like, yeah, there's this clicking sound. And he goes, does it sound like this? And he did this thing with his voice. I'm like, that's the sound. And as soon, because I had my phone on speaker, and as soon as Keith did that in my backyard, you hear a response of back. And I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. Right. I wish I could have recorded it. I wish I could.
Little do you know, you actually insulted his mother.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
But
Let's
yeah,
get to
no,
a question here. Let's get to a question here from Shogun. And
Okay.
I believe this is Shogun's potentially first time in our chat room. So thank you if you have. And don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell. For somebody who doesn't know that Disclosure is about aliens, what do you think a normie, aka normal person, would think Spielberg's movie is about?
Well, I mean, I think Spielberg, I think it's going to be clear that Spielberg's movie is about aliens. It's just whether or not the normal person associates the term disclosure that has been in the media coverage with Spielberg's film as somehow being related. But in that way, that is potentially another way how Spielberg's film can help again broaden the impact of Disclosure, is that his fictional film is going to draw a linkage between the term disclosure and learning that humans are not alone in the universe. And so anybody who then after that point sees a news article or a headline or a YouTube video or something talking about disclosure, they might make the connection between the two. So it could be perceived as Spielberg is making basically a large, public service announcement in the form of his movie to bring more and more people into the understanding of why disclosure is important.
I also believe that people watching it for the first time, much like if I recall watching Fire in the Sky for the first time, when you hear it's based on a true story, you think they're doing it verbatim, which they are not.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think that it's going to scare the daylights out of people, and there will be some copycat things happen over it, much like when Signs came out, all of a sudden there were people going out into cornfields and wheat fields and making all sorts of really crappy crop circles. Okay. I see that happening with this. Okay. And I see people, getting on the bandwagon a little bit, but once the fad fades off, they're going to go back to their, normal lives again. Yeah, they might say, hey, that was really good. I don't think it's going to push a lot of people towards studying the UFO, UAP phenomena. I don't think it's going to push people more towards the government needs to disclose. I think people are just going to be in it for a really great movie. Older people are going to be excited about it because of the tie to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And we've been waiting decades for Spielberg to make this movie. And younger people are going to be like, hey, this is cool. This is amazing. Could you imagine if this happened? I see a bunch of positives coming from it, but I don't see this pushing people to start picking up a book or listening to a podcast or a radio show saying, this is my new found treasure that I'm going to investigate.
Okay. I'll see there. But let me also ask it or think about it this way. People have, we talked about it before, that there are, everyone is a skeptic or a believer until they have their own experience, and then they become a knower, right? And all the phenomenon needs is like a switch in the brain where you go from this stuff is impossible to maybe this is possible. Maybe there is some credibility to this topic beyond this fictional movie.
Agreed.
And that's all the phenomenon needs to then for you to start having your own experiences. So even if it doesn't result in masses of people tuning into your show or somebody else's show or a bunch of book purchases, even if it only leads to that switch in the brain where they leave the movie thinking, is this possible? Maybe that's all it takes then for them to experience the phenomena in their own way. And that experience is then what ultimately leads to a broader understanding and awareness from more of the public. And 5-10 years down the road, they're the ones being interviewed on podcasts about their experiences and why disclosure needs to happen. I think we all want disclosure to happen sooner rather than later. But if seeding the public now for the long game of disclosure so that more and more people will wake up, guess what? More and more people who have experiences, what also generally comes along with it? Treating fellow humans better, treating the world better, treating the planet better, coming up with new novel ways of energy production or manufacturing or things like that. So it's almost as if the phenomena is our creative muse, if you will, as a race of people. And if this movie helps spark that next creative, rush of creativity, then I'm down for that too.
I'm down for it as well, man. I'm down for it as well. But I think there has to be a level of reality here too, though. I mean, and that reality is the majority of people are going to be saying, "Hey, this is great entertainment."
Yeah,
The
you're
majority.
right.
I'm not saying that it isn't going to flip over a certain few that are going to push the ball forward. And you're right. It's probably going to be in that younger crowd, or if you're in your 70s, like my father is, where all of a sudden Mr. Five Senses decides maybe there is something out there. My father's complete attitude has changed since my mother passed away a couple years ago. Now he's open-minded to what maybe there is something out there. Maybe my son isn't nuts. Okay. And I've watched him change on that, where he's asking me questions like, "Hey, do you really think that we're being visited by UFOs?" Or, "Hey, do you really think that Bigfoot is out there? You should have seen him when I showed him a footprint." He was ecstatic, and it just, there are going to be those people who
Yeah.
all of a sudden gain that interest. And you're right. And that's a good thing. There's nothing negative about that, but we're going to have to see. And unfortunately, we have to wait 6 months, Josh.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hoping that we'll get, more and more trailers that will reveal, pieces here and there of what the film is going to be about. But if you think, if you think about the possibility that to the 2017 New York Times article, if we think about it in the terms of, preparing the way, the 2017 Times article, and all the things that happened after it, pushed the stigma of talking about the topic away. So now
All
you
right.
have a
Hold that thought, because we got to go. The Wizard, everybody, as we say goodnight to him and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. And we should announce that tomorrow night on the show, the Wizard, the Beard of Knowledge, and I brought in a special guest for you. I don't know who it is.
Is it Avi Loeb?
I wish. Somebody just, in my opinion, better on the air.
Yeah.
Courtney Marcassani
Oh, nice.
is going to join us.
Yeah.
So it'll be us four looking at the year that was in ufology. And we're going to go 3 hours hard. 3 hours hard. The Beard of Knowledge, Shane Hurd. So just so you guys know what I'm talking about here, hold on. Okay, if you don't know who the Beard of Knowledge is, let's bring up a picture of Shane. All right. The reason why his beard is way more powerful than mine is because he's got the mustache to go along with it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 1 second here.
He would definitely, you know, in the 1800s, he would have been buying the mustache cream at
Oh, yes.
$20.
Yeah. So there's the beard of knowledge right there. Look how gorgeous that is. Here's another shot. Absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
Beard of knowledge. And let me also tell you, oh, we don't like that picture. We don't like that picture of him at all. No, don't like that one. Don't like that.
You know, everybody had to
better.
start somewhere, Dave, you know.
Getting a little bit better. A little bit. No, we're going backwards here. Going backwards.
That's how time works.
I know. We need a time warp here. But the beard of knowledge, and let me tell you guys this. If you've never had the chance or the opportunity to meet Shane Hurd, I've met him a couple times now. He is literally one of the classiest, nicest guys in ufology. He really is. And he loves this subject. Loves it.
Yep. And I'm very lucky that I get to go out and spend time with him, you know, at least once a month at his ranch and stuff, and do sky watches and all these things. And he's become a really, really good friend. I'd say one of my closest friends. And I don't really have a lot of good friends here in Arizona. So I'm still relatively new, transplant, if you will, from Kentucky. So it was good to have Dave here, and good to have Shane here, and somebody that I can connect with and enjoy the topic with and such. And yeah. So
1 second here, buddy. I would agree with you on that. And so what are we going to get into tomorrow night?
I mean, you know, probably differing perspectives, some of the stuff we talked about tonight. You know, obviously, you know, we can use the where have we been, or where have we come from this year, or you know, how far have we come. But I also would like to, you know, maybe we can, you know, some of that time speculate on what 2026 may have to hold as well. You know, especially with the potential for the Spielberg film Age of Disclosure Part 2, or whatever, you know, the director's cut or whatever is going to come out of that, and many more documentaries and films that are projected to come out in 2026. So, you know, what I was the kind of message I was thinking about before we had into the radio side was, you know, if we think of, you know, preparing the way, like your guest tonight was talking about, you know, the topic of disclosure has softened the topic in the public eye, so that after a film like, you know, Disclosure Day by Spielberg, more people might be more comfortable to then talk about their opinions or viewpoints about the actual disclosure that the film may hint at. And so, just, you know, again, paving the way for a broader, deeper discussion on people's experiences with the phenomena.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So
I would totally agree with that.
So yeah. But on that note, I'm gonna head out. I have got a doctor's appointment early in the morning.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow night.
I did want to show you real quick. A really good friend of mine sent me my Christmas present.
Oh, yeah?
This is it. Can you
Shark?
see it? Yeah, it's a shark candle.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid to open the lid because
now's the time to do it.
Because last year I sent him one that smelled like hot dog water, and it stunk up his whole house for a week.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Hold on, I gotta make you bigger here.
Oh my god, it stinks so bad.
No. Do it again. Oh, oh my goodness.
Smells so bad. I'm definitely not burning, but I burn this. Oh my God. I don't know what the scent.
Oh my
they
gosh,
used to
I can't
make it.
believe you actually did that.
Oh my God. I was nostril deep in that thing too.
That is awesome. That is completely awesome.
So yeah, I'm not
so
burning
happy you
that
did
for
that.
sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, brother. You
All
have a
right.
good night.
See y'all tomorrow.
I'm going to say goodnight to our great people as well. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Shogun, Deborah Rooney, Kurt W., Little Cam, and Little Cam hitting up the membership for another 3 months on our YouTube channel. If you're new here, do us a favor, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up because it really helps with the algorithms. And leave a comment after the show. Let us know what you think, and we go from there. We will see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. We round out this is really our final full week of Spaced Out Radio for 2025. Hard to believe already. We're going into the last 2 weeks, people. The last 2 weeks. And you're going to come along with us for the ride. Love you all. We will talk to you soon and see you tomorrow night with the UFO Year in Review. Josh Rutledge, the Wizard, Shane Hurd, the Beard of Knowledge, and Courtney Marcassani. We'll come up with a nickname for her tomorrow. See you, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You